So we just got done talking about how to set up the VersaRest in the actuation modes, top limb, bottom limb, or cable actuated. The factory configuration or the factory setup of the VersaRest is such that it supports the actuation mode, in that the spring pulls the launcher up and then the limb pulls the launcher down. When you go to set up your VersaRest for the conventional fall-away mode, it is exactly the opposite of how this rest comes configured from the factory. How do we get that opposite? Well, it comes with this additional opposite wound torsion spring that came in the accessory package. We'll need to install that before we go off and mount this on the bow for the conventional fall-away mode. So let's go ahead and do that. First off, we will loosen up this bolt that holds the lever arm on. And then we will pull the lever arm off. And then this is the spring knob here. We'll remove this locking screw, all the same size there. And you'll see the spring knob release its tension. And right here you can see that there's no play, the spring tension's gone. And if you look in the side of that, you'll see that the spring's in there. And we're just going to take that out. And then we're going to go ahead and take the opposite wound spring and we're going to install that. There's a little hole in the very end of the rod itself, and we'll try to line that up. See if I can get that the first time. We'll get a pair of needle nose pliers, put it in there, got that installed. And you'll see on the spring knob there's two very small holes in there, and you will pick either one of those holes and put the tail of the spring that you just installed, line it up. Okay, so I got the spring knob mounted on there. Well, we're going to rotate the spring knob clockwise, give it a little bit of tension. And what you'll see there is now the spring pulls the launcher down opposed to the limb pulling the launcher down. So when you pull your bow back, the launcher comes up, conventional mode, falls out of the way. Pretty straightforward. So now you pick it's nice, you pick one of the 12 different settings there for the spring knob tension, and you can adjust what that spring tension is that brings the launcher back down. Once you have that, then you can mount the lever arm back on the octagon shaft, and when you draw the bow back, it falls out of the way. So that's how you set up the VersaRest in the conventional fall-away mode. Now let's go ahead and put them on a few bows and show you how to configure it for the conventional fall-away mode. So now we're going to talk about setting up the VersaRest in the conventional fall-away mode. Why would you want to do that with the VersaRest is a good question. After we've talked about setting up in the limb actuated configuration or the cable configuration, cable actuated configuration. Well, one reason is the tolerancing on the VersaRest is virtually zero. With other fall-away rests, there's always a little bit of slop. You're always messing around with it, trying to get it as tight as you can to minimize that play in the rest. The VersaRest has no play. So that's one reason why you would want to set your rest up in the fall-away mode if you're comfortable with your bow and equipment you've used in the past in the fall-away mode. What's really cool about the VersaRest in the conventional fall-away mode is we can set it up 3 different ways in addition to the other 4 different ways for the limb actuated and all that. So I'm going to take you through the specific 3 individual ways you can set up the VersaRest for a conventional fall-away mode. I've got this bow set up right here. We won't go through the details of showing you how to put it in the press and all that. It comes with this cord supplied with the VersaRest we showed you earlier. And obviously you would mount it through the cable and you would serve it in. You would take the cord here, and then you can, a couple different ways you can run the cord through this lever. This one I have set up here where you can pull it through, tie your knot, cinch it back down, and then use the set screw here to tighten it up. Another great feature about the VersaRest is you can take this lever arm and move it around this octagon for the optimum leverage you want for your system. And then when you draw your bow back, it literally lifts up the launcher in conventional mode. So that's one great way to set it up. Zero tolerance, maximizing your accuracy. Let's talk about the second way you can set it up in conventional mode. Just showed you one where we had the lever arm on the outside. Sometimes, you know, with hunting setups, that might be an interference problem with all the variety of quivers out there today. So with that in mind, we actually gave this additional feature to the VersaRest, which is this through hole through the back of the I-beam setup here. And what you can do is run this cable through the hole, out the top, I don't know if you can see that, and then down through the hole in the carrier rod, and then tie a knot on the bottom of that cord. And what that does is lets you run it through there. Another great reason for this is if you're shooting a Hoyt bow that has a tech riser, you can either mount, as I showed you previously, with the lever arm on the outside, which has been removed on this rest, or you can mount it on the inside, depending on what your personal preference is. Then when you draw your bow back, again, the rest comes up and you can shoot that way in conventional fall away mode. So that's the second way. Third way, I've got this bow set up here. Same kind of deal. We have, in this case, we have the arm on the outside mounted on the octagon shaped shaft, and hopefully you can see right here that we've got it mounted through the cable slides. There's been some aftermarket cable slides on the market that allow you to tether your cord to that. You can see there, and as you draw your bow back, you can see it'll pull back the lever arm and then pull the launcher up as well. So in the conventional fall away mode, there are 3 specific configurations you can exercise based on your particular bow and your setup. Whether it's hunting, whether it's your target setup, the VersaRest is ultimately configurable for you. So keep that in mind when you have this in the package and you're playing around with it. Hope that helps you out. Now let's go to the fixed blade configuration.